forward to answering your questions. I believe you guys can leave a text question, and the cast here can give our best hope to answer. And we're really excited. In just 9 short days, we'll be wandering the frontier of Hopewell, Dakota. Got a lot of exciting things planned, a lot of Western stuff, a lot of night stuff. So, any questions, let us know, and we'll answer them the best we can. Any idea how the town runs? That's a good question. The town right now is basically a mining operation by the Northwest Mining Company, owned by James Hopewell. Anyone who is an American citizen in our realm will know that James Hopewell is like the Rockefeller of the country. There's not an industry he doesn't dip his toes in. He owns numerous hotels, transportation industries, and obviously mining companies all throughout the United States. So really, it's a mining town. It's small. There is a saloon. There's a crafting station, and a lot of the things you guys want to do will improve the town. So you're going to come in. It's going to be just a very rustic settlement, and there's actual options to, if you have any lumberjacks or carpenters, to get improvements to the town.
In addition to what Eric said, we also plan to have scheduled events pretty much happen that would happen in the town anyways. So at certain time periods, supply wagons will be coming in and out. The bank will open and close at the same time. Various offices around town will open and close at the same time every game. The gambling will start at a certain time at night every game. So we're trying to make it feel as like a much like a normal frontier town as we can. Gage wants to know what happens if someone cheats in a gambling den. You want to take that one, Chris?
Hello. Well, I mean, I guess that depends on how good you are shooting and running. I mean, this is the Wild West. I mean, if you can get away with it, you can get away with it. But if not, shot down, killed. I mean, fair is fair. It's like it's just like in the Cowboys movies. If you cheat, I think first of all, it's going to be that kind of idea of justice. Like, where's your proof? Can you prove it? And if that's and if you can prove you didn't cheat, or you can pay somebody off, or you're faster at running than I am, and I'm pretty sure you are, then you're good. I don't know.
Long story short is cheat at your own risk. Because if Hopewell doesn't get you, I'm sure all the other people at the table will. Chelsea wants to know, bandages are $1 per bandage. Will there be a way to wash or sanitize / clean them, or is it when it's used like a potion? There will be ways to sanitize your bandages. That will be something you probably want to check with the barber surgeon. And I know that this question came up the other day from Matt, but bandages are as close to real world as we can get them. So it's going to be one bandage per however many shot or maimed limbs that you have. So if both your arms are shot, you're going to need 2 bandages. We have bandage bundles available in the general store as well as when you come into game. So we physically have the strips of linen and stuff all rolled up ready to go. Charles wants to know, with unclean bandages, once they're done, if you return them to a dump bin. Yes, that is one option, or you can choose that. That will probably be in the doctor's office as well. Long story short, yes, there's going to be a dump bin in the doctor's office for them, since they're the only ones that can clean them anyways. Gage wants to know about claims. Could you go over the process from the start of finding a claim to having the claim able to be harvested by players? So, on Saturday morning when daylight comes around, you'll have the opportunity to buy or rent claims. They are already going to be staked out by us in advance, just so that we know where everything is. Those You'll see those indicated in game by garden stakes and brightly colored tape, like marking tape. So each one of those claims will be tagged with a claim code, which is what the surveyors and the herbalists and the geologists can use to actually read how good or bad a claim is. And then those claims can either be rented or purchased from the quartermaster, which will probably be myself on Saturday morning. And then each of those claims has, I believe, without looking it up off the top of my head, 6 slots in it, one for each profession that needs to use claims. And so you can split the cost of a claim 6 ways if you choose to. You can buy it outright and rent it out to other players, or you can rent it from Hopewell at the beginning when you don't have enough money to buy it outright. And then once you own a claim, there are certain activities that you can only do on claims. Hunting and trapping, specifically trapping, is one of them. Panning is going to be one of them. Certain agrarian things like planting and tapping trees is going to be one of them. And the main reason for that is if we have you go out and set a trap in the woods, we need to know where it is so that we can seed it. So that kind of activity is all done on a claim. So the gameplay loop for that would look something like you buy or rent a claim, and if you were a trapper, I would know what claim your trap was on. You'd go out, you'd set your trap on the claim, and then you would have to check on it periodically to see if it was if it caught anything, essentially. Yes, renting is considered for that weekend, whereas buying is you hold on to that claim for as long as you have the deed. In addition, as the game progresses and things in the environment change, more and more claims may become available. But for this first game, I believe we're planning to have 5. Charles wants to know what prevents people from stealing from traps set by others. So in there's only one thing really. Let's take trapping for example. If you are a trapper and you set a trap, you also have to have the trapping skill to disarm it. So if a player were to come and try and turn in the component that you would receive from trapping and they didn't have the proper license, then we would consider that animal to be essentially wasted and destroyed. But that does not guarantee that other trappers can't come and jump your claim. So that's something you guys are going to have to figure out on your own.
Yeah, game on is at 9 a.m. on Saturday. We ask everyone stays either by the saloon or in their cabins until such time. And if I owned a claim, the first thing I would do Saturday morning would be to check to see if it was fruitful.
Before somebody else does.
Brian wants to know if basic weapons and tools will be available to purchase if we don't have them ourselves. Basic weapons, no.
We'll have some.
So
Just a few.
Yeah, so yes and no. When you check in, if you have a weapon with you, you're essentially buying that back essentially from Hopewell. That's what the starting build is for. We don't have very many actual weapons to give away, but on the tool end, the way tools are going to work, because I know this has come up before, is when you're doing your crafting, it will have to be in certain designated areas. So I will use mining as an example. If you're a miner, mining is going to take place in the company mines. And when you get to the mines, you have one of two choices. You can either already own your tool, which is basically like a boffer representation of your tool, because I know some players are carrying like hammers and boffer pickaxes. You're going to trade that in at the mine to the foreman for the real version, like a real iron pickaxe, and use that to dig away to try and find ore. Alternatively, you can rent that tool, which is you just you have to pay a flat fee for that tool, and it's the same process where while you are in the mine, you will be using the real tool, but you are not allowed to leave that specific area with the real tool. So like it's kind of a check-in, check-out process. But long story short, tools can be purchased or rented in game, just not like a fake version of them. And weapons you'll most likely have to bring yourself, but they can be crafted or purchased in game, quote unquote.
I'm planning to have a few spare around the shop for a couple of folks, maybe if I like it. But we'll see. We'll see.
Um, it's possible that we can let you rent some of the cast weapons for the weekend. We're really short on melee weapons, so I can't promise that we'll have those available, but we definitely have a surplus of guns. So if someone is unable to get their hands on a painted gun by the weekend, we could probably rent one out.
The in-game gun shop is going to have a stock, and you might not be able to buy all of them right off, but we might be able to work something out in-game for you to get yourself a gun.
For Gage, yeah, you pretty much just hit it on the head. For deputy and barber, there is it's a non-skilled job that does have some pay in the rule book. But if you talk to the sheriff, if there's really no reason to deputize you, I don't, unless you exhibit all the qualities that he's looking for. I don't know if you would, but when things get desperate, I'm pretty sure he'll be tossing out deputizations like it's nothing.
Yeah,
Brian, come on down to the gun shop. I'll hook you up.
for going back to Gage's question, there are 3 jobs that have to be learned in game: the deputy, the barber surgeon, and then find out in game. So as Gage kind of alluded to, if those are things that interest you, the barber surgeon and the sheriff should be out pretty consistently. Those are major face rolls, so they'll be out for a large portion of most days. Chelsea is asking about research papers. Is that something that has to be written at game, or is it a between game skill? I would accept either. It was originally intended to be something that you do while you're at the game, because I don't want people to be submitting like 12-page essays to me about, a pretty yellow flower they found in the woods. But if people want to like whip something cool up and submit it between games, then that works for me as well.
Ben's kidding.
But
We will read your 12-page essay.
they might. I won't. I'll throw it away. But I had originally intended it to be like in our minds, we had intended it to be like, maybe a sketch of something, and then some field notes, and maybe a couple discoveries about what's unique about it on a single or 2 sheets of paper kind of deal.
The best research done in the field, True. Just wait for the bandits who roll into town and steal your journal.
Gage wants to know more about the banking system. The only mention at the moment is from the merchant job where you're able to gain bank access. Can non-merchants get access? So, without giving away too much, the bank is not even going to be available initially. You, as a town, will have to attract investors enough for them to come and build a bank there. But from a mechanical standpoint, any player is allowed to store money at the bank, but only merchants are allowed to store physical goods in deposit boxes. And like a bank, it will only be open for certain hours, and it will be as annoying as we could possibly make it.
Yeah, the bank's not open on the weekends, which really sucks for us.
Chelsea wants to know, for herbalist, assuming there will be herbs to possibly pick, there will be, yes. Is that locked to a skill such as trapper, etc., or is it a free-for-all rush of the woods type deal? And you need a particular tool to collect herbs. I do not see one listed. All right, so herbalism. There's two jobs that are qualified to pick flowers, so they will function very similarly to how hunting and trapping works and all the other related professions, where if a player brings me, the quartermaster or another player, if they bring me flowers and they don't have the proper license to show me that they were able to pick it correctly, then I'll be considering those components destroyed. So that will be locked behind, there's the agrarian version of harvesting plants, and there is the natural scientist version, which is just kind of built in. So those are the only two jobs that are qualified to safely pick flowers. And then to answer your second question, there are tin scissors that are used for snipping flowers, and those are available either through crafting or the general store and at check-in. And I found some really nice, they're like nose hair trimmers with blunted ends. So even if you fall and trip running with scissors like we tell you not to do, you probably won't get that injured.
Probably.
Too slow.
Don't
So for
y'all
those of
go
you,
tripping over scissors at once.
so for those of you joining late, feel free to post your questions in the AMA chat, and we will answer them as they come up. This is my first time using a stage, so the silence is kind of eerie. Gage wants to know what the daily duties of soldiers will be.
Wake up, eat slop, walk around, eat slop.
Yep. It's mostly find out in game, but you can expect the basics: patrolling, setting up checkpoints, making sure the roads are safe. I have a cast member who can play the bugle, so I plan on waking you all up with revel in the morning and taps at night. And because this has come up before, there's a little watchtower on the beach that sleeps 4 players. That is for soldiers only, and that's going to be a soldier outpost. You're not required to sleep in there, but you are the only ones allowed to stay in there.
Just know, the Survey Corps, they're there to survey the land. So they get the benefits. They start with a good gun. They have organization and supplies, and they get paid. But you're going to be expected to put in your hours and be a good soldier and follow orders.
Yeah, I see. Charles said something about the shifts. For the Survey Corps specifically, it's going to be based on your superior officer. You'll meet them Friday night. Also, with the outpost, it is located on a peninsula of the watchtower, and it's a good spot to throw like a couple A-frame tents down right there too.
But other shifts and other professions would be 1 hour.
Yeah, soldier's a little bit of an exception because it's like your whole faction as well. So just kind of touching on that, if you guys were to take as a job, bartender, performer, any of the shift based ones, those are paid by the hour, and each shift is an hour. And the plan for that is first come, first serve. So you're guaranteed at least one slot, but there is no maximum. So if you really wanted to just sit in the tavern and sing all day and get paid for it, as long as you're actually performing for the hours you're in there, then feel free. While people are thinking about questions, just some things that I plan to talk about at the opening meeting, but I may as well bring up now. There are certain flowers that are poisonous. Those will be indicated by if you pull the stem out of the ground and the bottom inch is painted red, which was the part buried under the ground. You've got a minute to find help. Good luck. And that can be mitigated by trained professionals, but that goes just kind of across the board. Gloves do not negate that, no. Not normal gloves, at least.
Sort of an aerial toxin, if you will.
All right, Brian wants to go over combat, which is a good question because it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for most people coming from other LARPs. So, at our game, a melee strike, a bullet, an arrow, any sort of projectile that hits you is all treated the same. So, you have basically the 5-1 dead rule is the easiest to remember. So if you are struck in a limb by any sort of weapon, that limb is maimed and you start a 5-minute bleed out. If you are struck again, either in the same limb or a different limb, that limb is also maimed, and then you're down to a 1-minute bleed out timer. If you're struck a third time in a limb, then you're now full of holes and you're pretty much dead. And by pretty much, I mean you're dead. Now, there are ways to mitigate that. You can, if it hits one of your legs, you can apply pressure to it yourself because you need 2 hands to apply pressure. If it hits one of your arms, an ally can apply pressure. And what apply pressure does is it essentially pauses your bleed out count until either one of 2 things happens. Either you are healed of your condition, either via a bandage or a tincture or any sort of special item in game, or until the person applying pressure lets go. And what happens when someone is applying pressure decides to let go is that you basically are releasing your dam of blood and you bleed out instantly. So if your friend is applying pressure, make sure that they know that they're in it until you're either healed or you're dead. Now, the only thing that differs from this rule is if your torso is hit. So, because most of the areas on your torso are more vital than on your limbs, if you're shot or struck in the torso by any sort of weapon, you are pinned to that location. And what do we mean by pinned? I don't mean like you're physically stuck to, like, say, a tree or whatever. It just means that wherever you are, you drop and you don't move. And you start a 1-minute bleed out timer.
Not to say you can't fall back and slump against a tree.
Yeah.
Make it all cool, like. So yeah, if you're pinned, if you've been hit in the torso, and you get hit in the torso again, you die.
So then to that end, the second hit to the torso is dead, like Jamie said. So that's everything follows so limbs follow the 5-1 dead rule. The torso follows the 1 and dead rule, the double tap rule. Charles brought up if, and I'll get to these questions kind of as they make sense. So Charles brought up, if someone is applying pressure, can the two of you limp back to town? Yes, I would say yes, because someone is assisting you. But again, if for whatever reason that person takes both of their hands off of you, you bleed out. So it's kind of a risk.
And you can't be running while you do it. You gotta be careful.
That's a slow walk at best. And then Gage brought up, when you say bleed out, are you unconscious like in most LARPs, or can you seek /help /yell for help? You are unconscious at that point.
If you're shot, you begin bleeding, but once the timer is out, you're unconscious.
Yeah, we don't really have a state of unconsciousness. I mean, you can be put to sleep at our game, but when your bleed out timer hits 0, you're not unconscious, you're dead. To that end, possibly unlike most games, if you are maimed in a limb, like say your right leg is shot, you can still get up and limp away, but again, it's no faster than a slow walking pace. So you're not entirely dead, and you can also, so long as you have a working limb to perform, you can bandage yourself as well. The only action that requires 2 hands is to apply pressure.
And as a clarification, if the first shot you take is any of your limbs, but the second shot you take is a torso, you're still dead. If the second shot you take is a torso, regardless of the first shot, you go down.
Also, to clarify, if my torso was shot, my arms are still working, can I apply pressure to my chest?
Yep. As long as you have 2 working arms, you can apply pressure.
Now, there might be situations where you don't want to apply pressure. Like, if you get shot in the chest and you're pinned and you start bleeding, that doesn't mean you can't still draw your gun.
The combat of this game sounds pretty deadly, and don't get me wrong, it can be. But what we found when we did our combat testing is that the deadliness of combat is oftentimes offset by how wildly inaccurate Nerf guns are. So even from 20 feet, you still have quite a fighting chance.
Just be faster on the draw. It's a skill issue, honestly.
Chelsea wants to know if the first game is being treated like a semi-playtest manner, aka is the real death first event, or is there attempt to work out kinks, or are we going to find out at game? Um, we've done our beta tests. We're ready to rock and roll. I will say that from an out of game perspective, the fastest your character could final is on your fifth event. So if you really love dying, you could in theory final on your fifth event, but that is the soonest that it could happen.
Not to say there aren't other consequences if you repeatedly die. Like, don't think you can get away with it. Like, there will be negative consequences for you. Yeah, death is not a free escape. No, it's brutal. It's rough, and
So
we keep
this
track.
is this is something that comes up a little bit. It's not very well indicated in the rule book. It's kind of like a sub sentence that most people probably skip over. Um, when you die, if you have to walk yourself back to the graveyard, you will likely have negative consequences. They won't be serious negative consequences, but it will make a difference on whether or not you are brought to the graveyard or whether you carry yourself back to the graveyard after being dead. So make sure you've got friends that care enough about you to bring you back. Brian
Or
wants
will
to
they
know if
leave you in the woods for the buzzards?
we can re-roll up to our fifth event. Um, let's see. Five events is a lot. I would say we'll do up to your third event, like most standard LARPs.
And for carrying, you can go up to the person, say, I carry you. That person would stand up, and you guys would walk at a very, very slow walking pace, just the same as if you were walking on a maimed limb, carrying a body.
Unless you both consent to physical role play, and then you can pick them up.
Gage said, I did hear something about blackjack when you die. Explain more. Without revealing too much, when you die, you will be playing a game of blackjack against death, and just hope that you do well. And you are allowed to go in with up to 3 friends, as long as your friends are also dead and agree to go in with you. There are advantages to having more than one person play at a time, but also if for roleplay reasons you'd rather go by yourself, that is fine as well. And if you manage to card count against death, I'll be seriously impressed. Jared wants to know if there's an accessory you can wear that signals that you are generally open to physical roleplay without the need to ask. I know other games have used checkered armbands, but that kind of is like immersion breaking to me. Most people who have filled out applications say they're comfortable with low levels of physical roleplay, but I would say for the first couple games, just get to know your neighbors and kind of talks amongst yourselves and figure out who's kind of comfortable with it and who's not. Our rule book is set up in such a way where we want to kind of encourage like the low levels of physical role play, so searching, bandaging, helping someone limp away by throwing your arm over them, like that kind of stuff is encouraged for sure. You still obviously want to make sure that they're okay with it, but from what we're seeing from our applications, those kind of people shouldn't be very hard to find. So long story short, if you guys want to use a system, we can figure something out. But I'm more a fan of just kind of getting to know the community and figuring out who's okay and who's not with physical role play.
Yeah, it should just be something really quick. I pick you up. Are you comfortable physical role play? The other player acknowledges yes or no, and then you could actually forcefully pick them up and throw them on your shoulder, if need be, if they say yes.
And obviously respect someone who, tells you to stop.
That being said, like I kind of touched on, if both parties are agreeing to physical role play, there is definitely large advantages to that. Some examples are bandaging a wound takes a minute if you are doing the RP version. If the person consents to physical role play, then bandaging takes as long as it takes you to wrap that bandage around them twice and tie it off, and you're good to go. Similarly, if you're carrying somebody, the roleplay version is you walk at a slow walk. The physical roleplay version is if that person consents to you picking them up, it's as fast as you can carry them safely.
At your own risk.
Just little things like that.
Is there, Ben, just kind of let's just go over, is there a designated person you can talk to as a player if you feel like someone has crossed that line as far as like physical role play?
That would probably be Eric, and
Well,
I mean any.
if there is an instance like that and there's inappropriateness, I would recommend that the person come to the cast center. We're always going to have a director and an admin and a senior cast member, three members of staff at the cast center at all time, basically for our logistics needs. But please don't come and ask me when the next Crunchy Squad's coming out, because I've had people run to cast members and say, "Hey, when's the next Crunchy Squad coming out?"
While people are formulating their questions, I'll go over another thing that comes up a lot. As far as cabins go, the plan is I have a spreadsheet of all the cabins and how many they sleep. I'm going to have somebody up at the very front of the camp as you pull in with a radio. They're basically going to take down which cabin you want to stay in, tell you whether it's how many spaces it's got left, and then send you on your way. So, at least for the first event or two, we plan to do first come, first serve. You don't have to stay with your faction. You can. There's no buildings that are off limits except for sleeping. Except for, like I said, there's the soldiers' watchtower is just for soldiers, but it's not required. And then the everything on the map marked with X is out of game. For those who haven't been to the campsite before, the woman who owns it, Jen, is a good friend of ours. She actually lives on site. So she's got a big greenhouse. She is perfectly okay with people walking past and through her yard and stuff, but just don't try to go into her house. There'll be clearly marked signs that say this is out of game on areas that are out of game, but just so people know that you're welcome to go through her yard and stuff, because there are trails that cut through her yard that go out to the chapel and to the dam and around the lake and stuff.
To answer Gage's question about hard shut off, our game is off at 2 a.m. We will no longer have a death mechanic. We won't be sending out any combat plot. That doesn't mean that there can't be role play happening at that time, but as far as death and combat plot and our time for game off is at 2 a.m.
Yep, we thought about making this a 24-hour game, um, but in my experience so far, I've never seen a game where 2 a.m. past 2 a.m. mattered, because either most of the players who thought that they wanted a 24-hour game were already asleep or weren't willing to get up and fight at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we figure between that and the psychological horrors that you guys may or may not be facing at night, that we would need time for our players to decompress and get some good sleep. Jared is saying, is there a time she would like us not to scream yeehaw in the vicinity of her house? No. Jen is a LARPer who owns a LARP camp, so she understands the risks that are associated with that. So as long as you're not in her house, feel free to bug the shit out of her. She'll probably be upset, but we'll get a good laugh out of it.
She'll probably start shooting some random gun. See a little pistol out the window.
I would. Yippee-ki-yay.
If you get shot by Jen, it definitely still counts. I would be I'm not sure if she's around for this upcoming event, but I would be pretty surprised if she doesn't end up participating in some form or another. Chelsea wants to know, how set are the trails? Ankle braking, pretty well maintained. Use a lantern at night. The trails themselves, the major established trails, are actually really good, because the site was a Boy Scout camp for a while. Some of the side paths get a little bit more questionable, but staying on the main paths are usually pretty good. We decided for both budget reasons and ambiance reasons that we are not going to be lighting the trails like other games do, so definitely bring a lantern. We will, however, have hazards lit up. So I'll go over this again at the Game On meeting, but if you see like glow sticks and stuff, that is a hazard, as opposed to like use this for light kind of deal. So I would definitely recommend having lanterns if you are hard of vision at night. Jared wants to know how common poison ivy and sumac is, and thorn bushes. I have not seen a lot of thorn bushes when we did the cleanup day. That being said, it is a campsite in the middle of the woods, so poison ivy and poison sumac is worth keeping an eye out for. But the prickers were actually not too bad from what I saw.
Roll around in the leaves to your heart's content.
Yeah, things you should bring to game. uh, Whatever, how much underwear and socks you need, just times that by two, and you're at a good start there. We are going to allow swimming for the event, and it doesn't have to be time period bathing suits. So it's hot today. We're going to probably be in the middle of a heat wave this week, so that would be nice. We aren't serving food as a game, so definitely bring food, bring arrangements. The cabins are kind of like barrack style, so just have like a tote for organization or a hang rack, something they can get easily accessible to. Yeah, we are gonna have players serving food like the McCoy Eatery, so I highly suggest them. Their commercial comes out next week.
Plug. Yeah, I mean your basic camp stuff, right? Toiletries, toothbrush,
Bug spray and sunscreen.
bug spray. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have like an emergency flashlight on you, just in case you like fucking break your ankle in the middle of the woods.
If you do forget something, like me, because I always forget something, there is There's like a truck stop store very, very close to the camp. Probably within, I want to say, under like 5 to 10 minutes. If you really need to go out and grab something, you can probably grab it there.
Charles wants to know if the soldiers' barracks has a campfire near it. There is a campfire located next to every cabin on this site. I'm pretty sure. So each area has its own campfire. You're more than welcome to obviously go and visit other people's, but there are plenty of spots to have campfires on the site. Is there an oven on site? I will have to check with Jen. I know there are microwaves that the players can access. I know that they have a kitchen, but I'm not sure the status of the oven, so I will check on that. That being said, other players have asked if they are allowed to cook on open fires and grills and stuff, and that is allowed. Obviously, not like a don't bring a George Foreman, but if you have something you can place, and Jen just said they do have a kitchen or an oven, so that answers that. That's why I love Jen. She's very quick to answer. There is a fridge in the kitchen, yes.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to cooler your stuff if you're far away, just to keep it close at hand, but you don't have to. Just note that, like, if you run out of room in the fridge, you're kind of out of luck.
We will have, obviously, but to reiterate, we will have water and something with not enzymes, boy, electrolytes
Electrolytes.
in it for free in the tavern, as well as drinks that you can buy.
Yeah.
So if you need cold drinks, those will always be free in the saloon.
The water with enzymes in it is the lake. You can have as much of that as you want.
One thing I really like about the camp, for those who haven't been there yet, is it's like, I would say 95% in the shade, because there's big, tall pine trees everywhere. So the sun won't be as big of a concern, but humidity will still be pretty bad.
Break out the vests and canvas pants, boys. It's time to sweat.
A couple more things while I'm thinking about them. They'll come up in the opening meeting, but while we're filling time, the site has a bunch of ropes course stuff. I'm not sure if Jen has taken them down yet or not, but obviously don't use those. And if you do, it's at your own risk. There's a field that we can technically use for the game, but it's literally right on the road. So the only thing I could ever foresee us using it for is shooting at cars. So I have that marked as out of game for now, because being that close to the road doesn't really cut it for me. And there's two big buildings right as you come on to camp, which there'll be signs clearly marking where to go. Those are out of game as well, because those are both haunted and set to be demolished. Like really haunted, I'm told.
Yeah. True story. Yeah.
All right, we've got a couple minutes left. Fit in your questions now, or forever hold your peace until next Friday. Well, a week from Friday. If anyone is planning to help with setup, you can start arriving after noon, because we're going to get the FOIG stuff out of the way early. Dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets are always a good bribe for me. However, I don't like them when they're cooked over an open flame because I don't like the taste of smoke. So if you microwave them, you're good to go.
Ben wants to preserve the preservatives, keep the taste.
Nick wants to know if we would consider this game to be more cosmic horror, gothic horror, or slasher horror. Probably none of those things. Closer to gothic horror, I would say. Definitely not really slasher horror. I mean, we may throw in a nice Jack the Ripper plot here and there.
It's a
But
foig.
yeah, it's
We
mostly.
don't want to. We don't want to give it away.
Yeah, you got 2 out of 3 of them right in that one. And the time to help out to arrive would be anytime after 12 o'clock on Friday, and of course we can always take all the help we can get after Sunday when game's over at noon.
Yep. So people who are helping with setup can arrive at anytime after noon, and check-in starts at 9 and game starts at 10. And the reason we're doing that is when you come to check in, you have to be fully in character, ready to go, because once you're done checking in, we're going to dump you into the saloon and game's going to be on. Essentially, it's going to be a soft start. So check-in is going to be in game. You'll be in. We'll all be in costume. You'll check in as if you were your character arriving to the frontier for the first time. You'll be dumped out into the saloon for however long it takes us to finish check-in, probably no more than an hour, and then game will start. And you'll know game will start. We won't have that awkward "are we on, are we off" that happens sometimes at LARP. Zinger bows are fine. Yep. As long as
Make sure they
they're
look nice.
look realistic. Yeah, painted to look realistic. The bows, that is. You don't have to paint the arrows.
And try not to lose too many arrows.
Do we expect folks to hang out at the saloon between things, or there'll be much wandering around? That is honestly going to come down to the player. There will be stuff going on at the saloon pretty much at all times, and there will be stuff going on out in the woods pretty much at all times. So it really depends on what you want to do as a character. Without revealing too much, we've got a lot of there'll always be something going on every hour, both in the saloon and in the woods. It may not be like a world breaking thing, but there'll be something going on in both areas.
Brian, I've been told that all cabins have electricity in them.
Yep, every cabin has electricity. The bigger cabins all have wood stoves, which I'm sure you guys are dying to use in the middle of the summer, but they'll be good for the winter. All of the cabins have lights of some form or another, and we are encouraging people for this first game to coordinate on bringing like box fans and stuff to keep yourselves cool.
What about the lean-tos? I know some of them.
Those have electricity. There's at least 2 plugs in every lean-to. And what we're referring to as the lean-tos are these summer cabins. 3 of the walls are made of wood. 1 of the walls is half made out of mesh. So they'll be great for the warmer months, and then kind of bad for the colder months.
I was also told that most of the areas where cabins are centralized around have their own fire extinguisher. With possibly a few exceptions, but I believe Jen, the camp owner, is trying to make sure that there's some fire extinguishers around just in case.
And if not, most of the cabins are close to the lake. And we will have plenty of buckets for panning. Matt wants to know if there's any restrictions on arrows, flat tip versus round tip. As long as they're safe and you don't mind potentially losing them, I have no preference.
I think just like all the weapons, we will safety check stuff. We'll pull stuff that looks dangerous.
Pat wants to know about panning. We have everything you need to pan. We've got the bucket, we've got the dirt, we've got the gold nuggets, and we've got sifters. You will have to buy a sifting tool in game, but otherwise we have everything you need. And Brian, yes, we as a cast are not providing food, just because usually it ends up being a nightmare and most people hate it anyways. So as far as food options goes, you are allowed to bring your own. We have confirmed that there is a stove, a microwave, and a fridge available in the saloon. There are McDonald's and Wendy's within 10 minutes because that's where I'll be going. And there are players who plan to open an eatery who have not put their menu together, and it's probably killing their business right now. But you can look for the McCoys for that.
Can of beans, yeah. Don't need
And
nothing
then-
but can of beans.
And then in addition, the saloon will always have cold water and water with electrolytes as well.
Yeah, Chess is right. Sturbridge has lots of great options.
Including the only Wendy's I've ever seen that serves a 50-pack of nuggets for $10. Just in
Brian,
case you were wondering.
lights for the night. We are going to have the saloon lights, and the trail is not going to be lit by us. Only the hazards. So bring a lantern and personal lights for that. Make it aesthetic and in game. But we're not going to have like trail markers just because we're trying to add some aesthetic to the game.
Yeah, we intentionally want things to be pretty dark. That way we can hunt you down easier.
Also on the topic of weapons, I'll say it just to clarify to ease my conscience. Make sure the Nerf guns you bring in obviously painted to fit the part, but cosmetic modifications are allowed. Anyone can do them. You don't need to do it in game. Paint your gun. Mechanical modifications are only done by gunsmiths in game. The only modification that's like, is this in a gray area? Does it count if you install a elongated, say, hammer on like a revolving dart gun as as for like mobility reasons, like if you've got really short thumbs or if you've got issues with your hand and you install a longer hammer on your gun so it's easier to use, you can do that. We'll consider that like an accessibility modification.
And because it got brought up a couple times in the chat, we want you to leave at least some part of your gun orange. And in addition to the talk about lanterns, we want to try and avoid actual flashlights. A couple of our game runners have had issues with the police showing up at their games in the past, and so no one associated with our game will be carrying an actual flashlight, just so we're for safety reasons.
And yes, you have to buy each throwable weapon.
Just to reiterate for some people who came in late, as far as we know, we still have the okay to go swimming. We are not requiring period accurate bathing suits because if we did, a lot of people would probably drown. But swimming,
You could wear them anyway to be cool.
Swimming is at your own risk, and we will have a separate waiver for that. Although I am a certified body recovery, so if you drown, just know that I'll probably find your body.
Every episode of Fables is a beach episode.
Oh, and this also came up. Jen says that fishing is also allowed. So we will allow fishing everywhere except where people are swimming and by the dam. And there are apparently actually fish in there. We just ask that you do catch and release because I don't want you eating real pond fish.
Unless it's a largemouth bass.
There's one legendary fish in the lake. If you catch it, you win. You win Fables.
No combat in water. I I I vouched for it, but it's just the insurance doesn't like combat in water, so no combat in water.
That being said, and I don't think this will be an issue with the group of you, but don't abuse that rule of no combat in the water, because if you use the water as a safe point, then there will be consequences. Let me see here. While we're thinking of things, I'm going to go through some of the important clarifications in case you guys didn't read them.
Plot can and will catch you in the pond.
A lot of these questions I've already answered are in the important clarifications section of the Discord. So if you missed any of them, feel free to reference that. Fires have to be attended at all times by at least one person. So cast isn't going to go after, whoever the designated fire person is. A very important point is do not bring your own darts. We have thousands of darts that are a specific color to our game. So we'll know very quickly if you brought your own darts and suspect you of cheating.
Guys, don't bring your own darts. I mean, they're cheap. They're so cheap.
After fights are done, we will have cast members picking up spent darts on the ground, so players shouldn't really be picking them up. We'll have cast teams do that. I bought 25 dump pouches for our cast, so they should be good to go.
Ben, you're more familiar with the site. Can you drive up to the cabins to unpack and pack up?
Yes, for like 75% of the cabins. The lean-tos are a little bit harder to get to because they're like a little bit into the woods. But if you follow the main roads, they'll come like within 20 feet of the lean-tos, or the summer cabins we're calling them now. So driving up to them is fine, and you can drive up to all of the main cabins as well.
There's a bridge on the camp, just one. Do not go on it. No one is allowed on the bridge, driving anyway. It's near Jen's house. There is an alternative way around. It'll be easy. Basically, if you're heading into camp from the road, there's a turn to the left with a bridge. Don't go left with the bridge. If you do go left and see the bridge, don't drive over the bridge. It is not rated for cars.
Yeah, we're gonna have someone there taking your name and finding out which cabin you're going to be at and marking it down, and can offer directions and other helpful advice when you get on to site on Friday as well.
And to your point, Charles, the soldier watchtower you can drive right up to, pretty much. Brian, we have a design for ammo boxes, but thank you. We ended up making them out of cardstock. Matt wants to know how in-game items are going to be differentiated from props and decorations that we bring. Important things to the game will have either a sticker or a stamp on them. So, for example, our hides, our leather, most of our crafting goods all have a Northwest Mineral Corporation stamp on them. A lot of our props are 3D printed, so that's probably a good indicator as well. And anything else that's kind of important to the game will probably have a yellow sticker on it. That being said, I'm sure there's probably going to be a little bit of mix-up just because just that's how LARPs are. So you can always, if you're not sure if an item, because there's 5 other games that play this camp. So if you're not sure if an item actually belongs to us, you can bring them to me as the quartermaster or bring them to cast and we'll let you know.
If you're looting somebody, say you're patting them down, you go through their pockets and you pull something out and you think it's in game and it's not, they can say prop and then you can't take it.
Yeah, that's probably a good habit to get into because the cast members will have lootable jewelry and stuff. So if you're unsure, just ask the person you're looting. They'll let you know. I brought several hundred pieces of jewelry from Temu, so. Yes, Pat, same rules to Myth. So you can either ask somebody, you can say, I loot you, and they can either say, go ahead, or describe your search. In either situation, stuff should be hidden in appropriate areas. I don't want reports of people hiding loot in non-appropriate places. We'll just leave it at that. If you're being looted, you can choose to say either go ahead or describe your search. In the event that you are describing your search, give it 10 to 15 seconds between location because that's how long it would take you to actually search it in real life.
Yeah, Matt, I bet you'll carry nothing.
That's my favorite thing to do as a cast member. Is make people loot me for 5 minutes while I have nothing on me.
I bet Matt will carry nothing.
All right. Any last questions? I know we're a little bit over, but we had some latecomers and people seemed enthusiastic, so I'll give you 2 more minutes to come up with any more questions.
Not a question, but I want to say thanks to you players. You guys have some really amazing backstories that when we have our meetings, we'll like review a bunch of players, and a lot of you guys, the stories and the narration that you're telling has given us some great ideas. So, thank you. We all look forward to seeing you guys in just 9 days' time. We're very excited, and we want to make this a premier LARP in New England, and we're glad that you're all going to be here from day one.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of Gage, I think we have a massively incredible player group. I'm excited to RP with everybody.
Yeah, we just hope that one bad egg doesn't spoil it.
I shouldn't have said that. Now he's gonna poison my food.
And then the last thing I'll say, as it seems like we're wrapping up on questions, is if you get mail from me, don't throw it away. Open it up. It's not spam, I promise.
Yeah, make sure to check your mail. I don't check it enough, but there's something coming.
All right, everyone. We are off to a plot meeting to go talk about your backstories behind your back. So if that's all there is, then we'll wrap this up. And then, Gage, can you send me the video? All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye.
And see y'all down the trail.
Yup.